songs are slow and sad. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Welcome to the Sad Song Queens podcast, where we dive deep into the songs that make us cry. I'm Laura Webb.
And I'm Lindsay Wolfington. Today we will be chatting with William Fitzsimmons and talking about his song, I Don't Feel It Anymore, Song of the Sparrow, off of his third album, The Sparrow and the Crow, released in 2008.
William is from Nashville and is known for a specific brand of music, honest and introspective folk songs. When it comes to his songwriting, nothing in his private life is off limits. He has written about being raised by disabled parents, experiencing 2 divorces, adopting his 2 children, and working with the mentally ill as a mental health therapist prior to his music career.
His music has generated over 500 million streams across all platforms, and he has had multiple film and TV placements, including shows we've worked on, like Teen Wolf and One Tree Hill. He openly acknowledges that he writes sad songs, and that's why he is the perfect guest to chat with today.
So grab those tissues and let's get into it, because we all need a good cry.
And now, here is I Don't Feel It Anymore, Song of the Sparrow by William Fitzsimmons.
Hold on, this will hurt more than anything as before. What it was, what it was, what it was. I've brought this on us more than anyone could ignore. What I've done, what I've done, what I've done. I've worked for so long just to see you mess around. What you've done, what you've done, what you've done. I want back the years that you took when I was young. I was young, I was young, but it's done. Oh, take it all away. I don't feel it anymore. Oh, take it all away. Oh, take it all away. I don't feel it anymore. Oh, take it all away. We'll fall just like stars being hung by only string. Everything, everything here is gone. No map could direct how to ever make it home. We were alone, we were alone, we were alone. Oh, take it all away. I don't feel it anymore. Oh, take it all away. Oh, take it all away. I don't feel it anymore. Oh, take it all away.
Welcome, William, to the podcast.
Hey,
Hi.
thanks so much for having me. Thank you.
Thanks for being here and digging into sad songs with us. We heard you're a fan.
Happy to be here to talk about sad songs.
Yes.
Not the first one that probably said that. Yep.
This universal love for sad songs that we didn't know it was out there. We are unveiling it.
Well,
Yes.
you either love them or you hate them.
Right?
But does
That is the
anyone
nice
really
thing.
hate them?
Yes.
Maybe they do.
I think that some people, like, I have a family member who calls these songs like to drive off a cliff, and he doesn't necessarily want to go there. So I think it's more just like you just don't want to go there, or at certain times.
No, sometimes we're in a season where we're ready to face certain things, and sometimes we're not, right? Like Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's stages of grief. You know, if we're in a denial phase about something, and that's okay, by the way, we all go through those different phases. Then, hearing a song about losing a loved one or something it's like torture. You're not ready to go there. That's all.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Or you have to be in your car alone crying, or, right. Yeah.
Totally.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Or late at night, we've seen a common theme come up so far that, myself included, I'll probably listen late at night to the sad songs and go down that wormhole.
Yeah, you find a time and place when it's safe. Yeah.
So one thing we like to do at the beginning is kind of talk about and potentially debunk theories we had about the content of the song when we first heard it. And then you can tell us what it was supposed to mean, where you were, what your thoughts on the song are. Mm-hmm. So Laura, what did you think when you first heard this song?
Yeah, so I remember I was listening because I was fortunate enough to use it in Teen Wolf, and I remember listening for work and being really struck by the emotionality, the sparseness, so it immediately made me perk up as we're listening through. And sometimes when we're listening for songs, the least I know, the better, so that we can then, kind of put it for what we need. Sometimes I will, but sometimes you kind of want to keep that omniscient. But I remember the Take It All Away, I don't feel it anymore, could be so for so many things. But I think and I think it was a post-breakup. But I just kind of felt like maybe it was mental health related. And then later, because I think we used several of your songs, my showrunner of Teen Wolf really, really loves your music too. And he went down a deep dive and read, and he was like, I guess this whole album was about, was about your divorce, I guess. When now with life experience and reading the lyrics, I feel like it's so obvious. But what's beautiful about the song is there's so many layers and so many ways someone can personally interpret it. So that was what I thought.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think.
What is it really about?
Yeah. Right. That was completely wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
Wrong answer.
No.
Are.
No, but I mean so I'm of that camp that believes that the meaning is shared, and that usually the best songs are ones that they leave just enough space for someone to have their own emotional experience with it. Right? If I remember Sam Beam, Iron and Wine, talking about that, of if they start out really specific and biographical often, and then I have to peel or sort of put back layers on the onion to leave space for somebody else to let it mean something. Because you don't just want it to be a journal entry per se. I lean farther in the direction of being really autobiographical. And so that song, maybe more than anyone I've ever written, that was about a conversation that took place between my first wife and I as we were splitting up. And I'm obviously the male character, and Priscilla Ahn, who sang the duet, just unbelievable singer.
Love her.
I love her.
I got to, the first time I ever sung that with her live just last year in Los Angeles. We'd never sang that together except in the studio.
Oh, wow.
15 years later.
So cool.
Which was kind of neat. That was a special moment for me. But and she told the female part of the story. And, I've made no effort to be discreet about that story. I was the bad guy. If there can be a good guy and a bad guy in a breakup, which I think, there's some 50-50 sometimes, but I was the bad guy, and I hurt her deeply. And for my own mental health, I wanted to tell that story, and I wanted to tell it in a way that was really visceral. I wanted people to feel what I felt and what she felt. So that, I mean, I think some people really like that record, and other people, they got really turned off because it is kind of, it's brutal. It's oh yeah. Like sometimes I playing that one live, and even 15 years later, I get kind of choked up because it hurts still. It's painful stuff.
I mean, I think, as you can see, it really touched people, and we're having this conversation 15 years later because, yeah, we feel it. I mean, even just the opening lines and the way you perform it. And so had you always thought you wanted it to be a duet? Like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, because I just, that whole record was about that divorce, and there's different things happening on it, but that song to me was like the cornerstone. And that if you just listen to one song, you would know the whole story, and it was that song that would tell it. And yeah, it had to be a duet, and it had to be somebody like Priscilla that could sing, I say neutral, and I say that knowing that she's one of the greatest living singers. So when I say neutral, I don't mean boring at all. She sounds like a freaking angel, but. Right. It's so pure, and like she sounds like a bell. Everything's like it's
and
just
delicate.
Pristine.
Yeah,
delicate,
she's such a
right?
delicate performance. Totally.
There's nothing overwhelming, and so I think anybody can enter into her space too and feel what she was feeling. She's like she completely was a storyteller in that one 2 verses that she sang. Beautiful.
Oh yeah, and the line about like I gave you my youth. I'm like now being older, looking back, and you're like, oh right, like. You feel it in her. So was Song of the Sparrow inspired because Priscilla sounded like an angel, or was it always that was the song title? Or
who's the sparrow? Who's the crow? Because the album, obviously. Yeah.
Oh, you're the crow. Okay.
I'm the crow, and then the female character in the story, which would be my first wife. She was a sparrow, and I was going off of a couple different things of sparrows being like a good omen for sailors. If you see a sparrow, it means that you'll get home safe. And
I didn't realize.
And crows, I mean, they mean different things to different cultures. Right. Crows can actually be a really good omen, but in some cultures, it's seen as like a bad, like black cat crossing your path kind of vibe. Yeah, like I said, this wasn't like a, I'm the good guy, everybody feel bad for me record. This was like, I'm a piece of crap, and I'm going to be honest about it. And that doesn't make me a good person either, by the way. That's just, I just felt it would help me, and maybe other people could connect with that too.
Well, I think that you were so willing, because I think we all, what's that line that like we're all our hero story, or but I think that you did emotionally go there, and a lot of people don't take accountability, and the fact that you did in a public space is really brave. And not that you were even doing it for performative reasons. You just needed to probably, I'm guessing, excise it kind of.
Well, and I did it privately too. After my second divorce, my first wife and I, we were able to make peace. It took a long time. It took like over a decade, but we were able to come to terms. So in that sense, it wasn't performative, that I always wanted to take responsibility, and I wanted to give her the chance to say her piece whenever she was ready to as well. And she did. It wasn't super fun. But, but that's what you do, right? If you want to be in like relationship with people and you want to be able to sleep.
I don't feel it anymore. It's interesting. Just listening back, I was like, is it I don't feel like I'm kind of numb to the situation, or is it I don't feel this love? Like there's a lot of specificity, and then I don't feel it anymore is a little broader.
It was meant to be a lie. It was meant to be like a methinks the lady doth protest too much kind of thing. And I don't know why that was so important, but I always loved that chorus. It's so simple, but like, it's just that thing where someone says that they're like fine, they're over something.
Like, oh, it's like a cop out. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. And it's not true. It can't be. Like, I can see the pain in your eyes. I know how you're living, right? You're drinking more. You're not sleeping well. Yeah, that was a weird thing, because every single other song, I'm always like, no, you have to tell the truth. You have to tell your experience, 3 chords and the truth. I took that very literally, and literally just used 3 chords all the time. But I think that moment of like flipping it around and being like tongue in cheek just felt appropriate. It felt like where I was at the time in my life, I guess, that I wasn't really there yet. I wasn't healed yet. I wasn't ready to move on yet. And so that lie was like the truth, if that makes any sense.
And so then the take it all away part is like you're just letting it dissolve without trying anymore? Is that like part of it?
I'm going to move on. Everything is going to be okay.
Right, okay.
I don't have to grieve this. I don't have to be affected by this. I don't have to carry this into future relationships.
Right.
That worked.
Nice try.
Really well.
Good luck with that.
Well, second divorce sure proved that I had not healed from a lot of things, but that's okay too. You know what I mean? Like it was. Although I look back on all the lessons, and I wish I hadn't needed so many. But
well, to that, like, does the song have a different meaning to you today than it did when you recorded it and wrote it?
People ask me that. We did like a reunion tour of this record, and we remastered it, and it was a really nice money grab. No, in all seriousness, like this was one of those records where like people would say like, hey, this was I listened to this in high school, or I heard this on a TV show, and it meant a lot to me. You know, I was going through a rough time, and so we thought it would be kind of cool to revisit it with those people that had heard it a long time ago. I don't think, it doesn't mean the exact same thing, but there were 1000%, there were nights when I got choked up singing this song last year. Like it was still that, because there's pain that lives inside the song, if that makes sense. And it's still, when I go to, I don't know if there's like a restaurant or something that you went to with an ex or something, and or a song, right? Like a record you used to listen to. Sometimes you can't, it's kind of ruined, and you can't go back there.
Talking about Priscilla on and this record, right? Like 2008, all of this music brings me back to like a certain time and place in Los Angeles when, Hotel Cafe was like this epicenter of indie music. How did you connect with Priscilla?
It's a really small community.
Right.
Like you could, on any given night you would go to Hotel Cafe and you'd look over and every single person that would be considered in that group was like there, and there was still room in the venue. It was one of those kind of things. But a friend of a friend, we all kind of knew. She had sang with Joshua Radin, and she was friends with Carrie Brothers and Eric Robbins. So just all the guys that were in that, and women that were in that community. That group. And and so I had the good fortune to work with a producer named Marshall, who I've worked with again.
Marshall
recently.
Altman, yes.
Marshall Altman.
Because he also produced Rosie Galan's album, who I know you worked with, but I was like obsessed with that album. And again, there's another voice that is pure and gold, right?
Oh, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah, and I met Rosie through Marshall. That studio was literally, it was right around the corner from Hotel Cafe.
I don't think I ever realized that. I should have.
Yeah, it's called Hollywood Sound. It's not.
Oh.
Yeah, well, it was fun. And you would walk in there, and Josh Radin would be sitting on the couch, or Ingrid Michaelson would be. It was one of those fun. It was fun, and there was. I'm not going to say that there's not. There's always competition. There's always, we're all trying to make the best thing that we can. But a lot of the people from that time are still actually really good friends, and I enjoy seeing them and working with them still.
That's awesome. Priscilla On is like one of those, it's probably like the main story I have where you like went to a show and discovered somebody because they opened. I went to see Missy Higgins at Hotel Cafe and arrived early, and Priscilla opened. Yeah. And I literally cried in the audience when she sang Dream. And I was overwhelmed. I was like, oh my God, this, who is this? This song is so beautiful. Her voice is so beautiful. And I remember, I think like a couple managers were in the back, and I was like, who manages this girl? I think I like called, Lynn with Ingrid and was like, do you know this girl? Like, I need to have this song. And and like 2 weeks later we had it in One Tree Hill, because I was like, must use. She's so beautiful.
Yeah, and she's like the coolest too. Like she's a mom and she loves tennis. Like it just, she happens to
I'm
sing.
a mom and I play tennis.
Let's go.
Where's Priscilla? Give me your number.
Yeah.
No,
like...
she, but like zero pretense.
That's
you know what I mean? Like You see her playing, she's up there looping. I don't know if she was doing looping at the time.
Yes, I think, yes. It was like a one-woman show.
And like, she would walk off stage. She'd be like, "What's up, man?" Like it was, and I'm like, you're kind of unbelievable. You should probably have a bigger ego than you're carrying around right now. It was really bizarre. But that was kind of part of the vibe in that community too.
Were you on the Hotel Cafe tour? Because wasn't that a thing at one point?
I did.
Okay.
I went on it because I'm good friends with Carey Brothers, and I probably shouldn't have been. Like I don't think I had
you fit right in.
Well, yeah. No. I mean, I did, but it was more just like because I didn't have. This was like before I really had much of a following, and I went on the bus, and I'd never been on a tour bus. And I remember I got on it, and Carey was like, "All right, dude. So I'm really sorry, man. There's actually not a bunk for you, so you're gonna have to sleep in the back lounge." I was like, "That's cool, no problem." And I was so psyched to be there. I didn't care. But there was like no blankets or pillows, and it was really cold.
This sounds horrendous. You sat. So what was
awesome.
Like you slept on like the bench?
Yeah, there's like a little sectional bench seat in the back, and
this is where you wrote your other sad songs because that sounds
so cold. It was so cold. No, I was so excited. I was so happy to be a part of a team. Like I didn't care. You know what I mean? Although Carey did try to oversell it. He was like, Sarah Bareilles was in your spot last year. So I'm like, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So step it up.
Me, bud.
You've got big shoes to fill.
I'm like, yeah, she's doing good.
I just picture you like rolling off because there's nothing, like if the bus driver slams on the brakes, like you'd fall or.
There was no belt. It was unsafe. It was probably illegal. But I was like 28.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, who cares? I didn't have kids yet. It was just, yeah. I miss some of that, the innocence of that, because then you sometimes you start to see behind the curtain a little bit. But I've never lost my love for writing and for recording and for playing. That's the cool thing. If you can hang on to the magic that actually does exist inside of a song. I know that sounds cheesy, but I don't care. That's my generation.
We're music people. We love it.
But that to me is still the thing, because you can get jaded. It's hard. This industry is changing and it's different than it used to be. But you listen to a song, and those rare moments when you get blown away. Like you said, listening to Dream at Hotel and like crying. Like they're few and far between. But when I have those moments, I try to squeeze them as tight as I can in my hand and hold on to them as long as possible.
When you are giving, singing your heart out and all that, is it hard you coming off stage? Do you need like decompression time?
Not really.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
It's not, because I used to be a therapist before,
that's right.
before I did this. And, when you're doing therapy, you have 8 minutes from when you say goodbye and get your payment information from the 11 o'clock client, and you literally in 8 minutes you get your notes out and you prep. Hopefully you've done a little bit of that last night or in the morning when you're having your coffee, and then another person walks in the room, a whole nother human being that deserves as much energy and focus and time. So therapy trained me really well for how insane the music business is, but also to be able to be really authentically emotional
and present.
And yeah, but not be a douchebag either, though. Not be so self-serious, because I like laughing.
Laughing's
not
good.
As much as crying, but I like laughing. Like life's funny, man. It's crazy. It's okay to like appreciate how we made everything up and everything's ridiculous,
Can we dig more into your therapist background? I was a psych major, but never did that. I think Laura and I feel like sometimes listening to sad songs is a form of therapy for us.
It is, yeah.
But yeah, like what did that help you bring to your music, to your songwriting?
I think vulnerability, the ability to go like real dark, not just for its own sake. And to be really comfortable in that kind of darkness, because that to me is the difference between a well-trained therapist and a mediocre therapist, it's their poker face. You know, it's like, are you? And I sort of mean that tongue in cheek. It's not, you're not faking it, but can you sit there and look somebody in the face when they're telling you that they want to kill themselves? And can you feel that? Can you have unconditional positive regard and empathy for them in that moment when they're telling you that? It's really hard. It takes years to do decently. And some days you're having a bad day and your mind is wandering, and you know, they were out of the sausage, egg, and cheese thing at Starbucks, and you had to get the wrap, and you're bummed or something. So it's that. So that to me, like, therapy trained me to be. I think it actually trained me to be like a halfway decent songwriter, because I'm not afraid to be really honest to the point of self-humiliation, and I'm not afraid of people connecting to my music in really, really like dark ways sometimes.
Wow. Have you ever used a story that wasn't your own in a song? Confession time.
Yeah. Very rarely. I just did it recently. It's not out yet. I'm working on I'm always working on a record. But, yeah, like peripheral family member that's going through a really hard time. But then, like, the more that I listened to it, like the demo mixes and stuff, I was like, oh crap, I think it's about me again.
Oh, interesting.
I think I'm still writing about divorce. I try to not write. I've written so much about divorce. I can't do it anymore.
But if you, I mean, well, yeah. But if you, I think it, like, for you, and that's where you're feeling. I think that, you know, like.
Thanks, Laura.
Hey,
I agree. I think you should write what you know. Like Mark Kozelek he's like gone over some of the same territory for 30 years, and he does it better than almost anybody else. He's one of the greatest songwriters ever. A lot of his songs sound kind of similar. A lot of the subject matter is kind of similar. He does it better than almost anybody else. Why? Like, should he do a country record because he's not done that before? Like, I never understood that. Like, I'm gonna do, you know, I like synth pop a lot, right? Like, I was born in '78. I grew up in the '80s, and a lot of that stuff is real nostalgic for me. So I've been spending a lot of time, you know, like listening to like Bill Conti. You know, Bill Conti, like he did like the Rocky movies and Karate Kid.
Oh, right.
He did the score. Oh, the Karate Kid score. Come on.
I mean, like, all the 80s soundtracks. So and
over the top. Like,
yeah.
Oh, the music is so, anyways, it's so good. So I'm like enjoying that. And I'm not, it's just fun to me, you know. And I've had people say to me, I had people say, they're like, can't you just make like another song like Beautiful Girl? Like I mean, I can. It's not like a complicated song. The chords are pretty easy, but you do what you're feeling. That's your best shot of anybody connecting with it, right? You can't, I don't know.
That's okay. I agree. Like, even as like a music supervisor, like we do a ton of teen stuff, and we like doing things that aren't, you know, young adult and teen, but there are also some things that, like, it's okay. Somebody else can do that. It's like not my thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's room for it. There's room for all of it, which is nice too. You know?
Yeah.
And if somebody doesn't dig like the pocket that I've dug out, that's okay too.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I think I'm making peace with that. It's like the art versus the commerce, but I think savvy fans will pick up on, like, you're not feeling it, where we feel this in your song, you know?
Totally.
Like, and that's, I think it seems like artists struggle, like, I need the next hit, but then you kind of can feel that. I don't know. Yeah.
I agree completely. I think you can hear it on recordings.
Agreed.
It's not just live. I think you can hear it on records, which is crazy. But I think it's probably a skill it's developed. I mean, how many songs have you guys listened to? You know,
too many.
Right. And so, but I think you develop an expertise for like hearing when there's actual like passion and when there's not. And then you have someone like Billie Eilish that can do 80 takes in a song, and I still feel every single syllable.
Right.
That she's what's the one from the Barbie movie?
What was I made for?
I can't with that. So I don't care if everybody likes it. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
She did over 80 vocal takes.
Oh, she did? I didn't know that.
And it's fully comped, and yet she's that brilliant and Phineas is that brilliant that
Agreed.
First time I heard that, I was an absolute mess. I was like, oh my God, I've never heard anything this beautiful. It's incredible.
Right.
I remember being in the theater and I was like, I'm not okay. And if I was home, I think I would fully be, but I was trying to keep it together because I was like, but I mean, yeah, exactly.
Oh, I lose it in a theater, I think, because there's some anonymity. I mean, granted, my kids are always like, is mom crying? Is mom crying? But like, I know, because I cry at commercials and whatever. But sometimes I feel like the safety of the dark theater, it's when the lights come up too fast that you're like,
oh, yeah.
you know.
Well, that's
Or Hamilton.
like,
we went to Hamilton last week. I was like bawling. And then the lights come up and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to clap for these people.
Interesting.
What made you cry about Hamilton? Because I've seen it with them a couple times.
I'm glad you asked that because I wanted to know.
Wait, no, you guys just need to rewatch it. Who lives, who dies, who tells your story, and the core, like, it's like, and what could, like, essentially that last number, like losing a child, like devastating, right? And then, spoiler alert, anyone who hasn't seen Hamilton. And
or no history.
Right. Well, and then there you go. So not so much spoiler. And then I also think, like, here back to like purity of voice, like Eliza, whoever plays Eliza, like one of the characteristics is like this super pure voice. And first of all, I don't know what these chords are, the way they like build on each other has this like emotion, like motion on emotion on emotion in the finale song. Okay. It's super powerful. And this was actually like, I really liked the Eliza and I really liked the Hamilton. So the performances were also really good. But I do have to say, whatever those, I do feel like in some songs, I'm like, those chords will just like hit
Lin.
The cry chord. I mean,
That's Lin. He's the Moana soundtrack that he co-wrote, Lin-Manuel Miranda. Oh my God, just chordally. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's some... We have like internal frequencies. I'm not going to get any crystals out. And no judgment. I have friends that do that stuff. That's great. But there are chord progressions and there are frequencies and stuff that for any number of neurological explanations, they hit us more than they hit other people. I have my own. There's certain
I was going to say, do you know what the chords are?
Yeah, I literally wrote to ask you 3 chords in the truth. I mean, which I know that line, but what were the 3 in this one, or that because one of the questions we tend to ask guests is, what makes a song sad to you? So is that like you have the special sauce of those, or it changes for each song?
Oh, I mean the easy answer is just that there's a like a minor 6. That's always in there somewhere, right? Like here. Well, what would you looky here?
Hey.
Oh, bring out the guitar.
So you start minor with that one, and it still goes minor, but then you have but then back down again. So you have this upward positive movement, right? It starts minor, starts low, and then it starts to climb. But then it never quite gets there. So I try not to visit that trope too often. Probably do it like 80% in my songs, but
it
not
seems
like
to always
95.
work. I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, and you have to be careful about revisiting the same well because the water can get kind of stagnant. But I like when you have a major relief in a chorus, but one that also doesn't get epic enough. I like getting really close. It's like you make it Sisyphean, right?
Ooh, that's a good word.
You get up the mountain. That's not exactly what Sisyphus did, but let's just go with that analogy. But you never quite get there, and then the stone rolls back down, and you push it back up again. Because that's kind of what life feels like to me a lot of the time, right? Is that you're, that like 1 step forward, 2 steps back kind of thing. So I think that's pretty thematic in a lot of my songs because that's real. That feels real to me. Like all major chords does not feel real to me.
Right.
That doesn't feel real.
I think we tend to use the term bittersweet. And then I sometimes use like this term heart squeeze. Like it hurts, but in a good way. Right.
Yeah.
And it's probably that like dance between minors and majors.
But that's real life. That's why I like that. It sounds like maybe that's why you like it because it feels authentic. It feels like what I'm actually experiencing. And there's something to be said for fantasy. Like I said, I love the movie Karate Kid, not just the music. I love the film. That's not real.
What?
I mean, there are.
You just burst my bubble. No,
like, so fantasy's okay too. I love Lord of the Rings. I love Star
Yeah.
Wars. You know, I love fantasy. I love going to different worlds. I love reading and going into a place that doesn't exist because it feels better. But most of the time when I'm consuming art, I want something that is like, oh, that's the truth. I've felt that before. That's real stuff. I want to stay there.
Right.
Yeah, like that's the escapism is sometimes you want to take a little break out of what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's what those are really good. But then to ground you back is sort of the stuff to make you feel. And yeah.
I think they're both good.
We found this quote in doing some research where people ask you about making happy songs, and you were saying, you know, there's a million different good answers, but to paraphrase Ani DeFranco, when I'm happy, I just want to live. I don't want to write about it, and that's all true. And you were saying, personally, my job description was handed to me for whatever reason. You need to write about the hard shit, which we totally relate. Like in our jobs as music supervisors, but also in our lives, right? And the stuff that we connect to.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that I haven't tried, but it felt like boring. It felt dumb. Like I didn't even know, because I just don't even like that concept. I like the idea, like from Buddhism, not to get religious or anything, but like where suffering is universal. But so is change, and we have the opportunity of, through awareness, so we can address our suffering by becoming aware of it and then finding ways to ameliorate it, you know? So, music kind of, it plays that role for me, but I don't, you know, it's, well, after this, like, now you can write happy music. After what?
Yeah.
Like, what part is fixed? It's not fixed. Like, yeah, I might be having a really good day and my kids are doing good, but, you know, and I'm not looking out for those opportunities. My therapist asked me that. She was like, do you do this to yourself so you can write songs? And I was like, first of all, that's bullcrap, because I'm paying you a lot of money.
Yeah, and you're like, you have one less client.
Hypocrite. But it stuck with me that whole week, and I went back and I was like, no. That's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. I'm glad that I faced it. But no, that's just life. Life does a really decent job of having it raining sometimes, right? It does it on its own. The universe just does it. It just vets out all that crap, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not, you know. I just don't like writing about the sunny days. It just feels dumb. No offense to anybody.
No, yeah.
No, I mean, right? There's a place and time for it all.
Totally.
You know, we read that you grew up with 2 blind parents.
That was made up. That's not. No, I'm just kidding. They are.
We're like,
was just to get a song out of you. What was that like? And maybe that's why you like come to everything with so much honesty and empathy.
It was dark. And I mean that very sincerely. And people think I'm joking when I say that. Blind people don't turn lights on. And so, because why would
right?
You?
Yeah.
So I remember being, as a kid, when my brother and I finally were like, dude, we can turn the light switch on, I think. Like, we're like doing our homework, and it's like, you know, 6 p.m. and it's winter in Pittsburgh, and it's real dark in here. We should like turn the light on. It was definitely different. It was hard. I've had to come to terms with that. I used to say it wasn't a big. I said their divorce was more painful than them being blind. But after a long time, I came to terms that it changed me in really fundamental ways. It gave me a lot of anxiety and insecurity about what was safe and what wasn't. You know, I had a lot of fear when I grew up as a kid. And I love my parents. We're actually still they've split up a long time ago, but they're cool with each other. And I'm very close to both of them still, as my brother is. And they're wonderful. It's just I was raised by 2 disabled adults that were really good parents, but their eyes didn't work. And I didn't feel safe as a kid, if that makes any sense. You know, I was always afraid that somebody was going to
happen to you or happen to them.
All the above. And then, as you know, as like a 5-year-old, when you have that thought and you know that you're physically incapable of defending your family, even though you feel a responsibility to. And like my mom would go out for walks and she would get lost. And my brother and I would like have to go out and look for, she had a guide dog, but they're dogs. They're not like, they're not robots or anything. So,
So you felt a little bit of that like need to be the parent early on.
yeah, and a lot of people do. That's not just in my situation. A lot of people feel that for any number of reasons, right? But yeah, it did. Again, that gave me another little like college level course in mental health issues and like in pain and healing and facing demons, all those things. So,
I won't pretend to know what it's like to be blind or live with blind people, but people talk about other senses being heightened. Were they like super into music, and did that affect you?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, no, but the other the senses are heightened. It's not, my friends used to think it was like a superpower that my dad could like Spider-Man up the chimney or something. But just survival, if your ears aren't doing real good work, you're gonna get hit by a car. Yeah. So music was both my parents are musicians, not professionally, but my dad has been an organ player for most of his life.
Wow.
And my mom's a pianist, and they're both really talented.
Yeah.
And yeah, that music was really important. There was always music playing, whether it was my dad at the pipe organ. It was a real pipe organ in the house, which was awesome. It was actually really cool. He never let us play it, but
Is it so big? Like I've only ever seen them in churches, but I'm thinking in your house, like no, but
yeah. So he had a room for the treble pipes. He had a room off the kitchen that he had built, because those were the tallest treble pipes are only somebody's gonna call me out for this, but maybe 3 or 4 feet. The bass pipes are a lot bigger, so he mounted them horizontally in the basement along with the wind system. Wow. Yeah, it was wild. I don't know how they sold that house when they finally did, like with that thing in it. That's
to a composer, probably.
Yeah. That's like
how'd the neighbors feel? They're just like,
no, they didn't like it. The police were called very often, and they eventually told him like he had to cut it off at 10 p.m. He couldn't play late anymore, which I think he still did. He didn't give a shit.
Except on Halloween. Maybe you can play the organ late on Halloween. It's only
You're like, this is the best house to go trick or treat.
Seriously.
That was so awesome if we had.
He didn't play on Halloween?
No, we were like super duper like fundamental Christians. So we were that house that like we had to, like, my mom made us turn the lights off and like pray. We had to like pray for the kids that were trick or treating.
Okay.
But hey, at least I didn't get any candy, so that was cool too. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was so music was a level playing field, right? Mm-hmm. Because like even when I sing, I often close my eyes. You don't need eyes to do music, and so that was a way that my dad, my mom, my brother, and I could be on the same level and experience something together. And because there wasn't a lot else that didn't involve eyes,
right?
But so yeah, so music was really important even at a pretty young age.
I know it's obviously a different story, but did you see that movie Coda?
Loved it, absolutely.
Yeah, I was just curious if you identified with the main character at all. I know that's kind of the opposite, like she's really into music and they can't hear it, but
right. It's here.
Right.
Here's why it's different. So we have Jacksonville, Illinois is where the state school for the visually and hearing impaired are. If you need a public education at a really good school and your child is visually or hearing impaired, they come here. They come to Jacksonville, Illinois if you live in Chicago or Peoria or something. So we have a relatively large, compared to our population, deaf community here, which is kind of neat. And some of our friends are teachers, fluent in ASL. It's really neat. The difference between visually and hearing impaired people, and I'm talking out of my butt because I'm sighted and I can hear, so forgive me anyone that's potentially offended by this, but there's more isolation in the hearing impaired community, way more.
Interesting.
And so I actually feel really lucky because I felt like, because we still had language, a spoken language that we all shared and we all knew fluently from go, for the most part, there wasn't as much isolation or separation. But like having like in a situation in code or something like that, if there's not really good signing happening within the family or in the community, there's just more isolation. So I kind of feel lucky. I know that sounds strange, and I hope I didn't offend anybody, but yeah, it's tough. That's difficult stuff. But yeah, like I said, there's ways that you can connect. Music was a good one, at least for our family.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of, $1 million question. And we know you have a dissertation on this, but what is your favorite sad song?
Or songs.
Yeah, plural.
I used to get my graduate professors used to
Indeed.
They would get on me for like how they were like, dude, you can cut this down, bro. You can take 3 pages out and it's still really long and really verbose. It's hard to pick one, but
Oh, of course, yeah.
One of my favorite songs ever. I love Sufjan Stevens. I've always loved Sufjan. I've had the pleasure of being on the same song with him, although we've actually never met in person.
What song is that?
Well, there's a couple. So
Okay.
one of my really good friends is Rosie Thomas.
Oh, I love Rosie Thomas. Oh my God, yes.
She's
Beautiful sad songs.
She's wonderful. Her and her family come out to visit usually once a year, and she sings on a lot of my stuff too. And I mean, God, she's just as a person and art, she's unbelievable.
You really
But
love the pure voices. She's another one of those.
I like the bell. I
Yes.
like the bell voice.
Clear as a whistle, yeah.
Yeah, I vibe with that a lot. And Dennison Whitmer, who also is one of my best buddies. He was on Militia Group for a long time. He's on Asthmatic Kitty. He's on Sufjan's label right now. But anyways, they both did songs with Sufjan, and I was able to be on both those songs. It was kind of neat moment for me because I'm a big
Super
fan.
fun.
Yeah.
But his song, Casimir Pulaski Day, that was about the death of a friend that died from cancer. I think that's off the Illinois record. It's just perfect.
What makes it perfect to you?
He's on the nose in the song emotionally without ever being on the nose lyrically, if that makes any sense. He's using like literary allusions like a cardinal hitting the window to mean death. He's talking about guilt, but instead of using the word guilt, he says, your father sold his car to the Navy Yard just to prove that he was sorry. Like, what a strange way to describe someone feeling guilty. The way that he talks about sexuality in this really innocent way, but it doesn't feel inauthentic. It feels really lived. And then the trumpet in that song does the heavy lifting at the end. He never actually says, like, a lesser writer like me, I would have said something like, and then you died, or something, you know what I mean? Like, it would have been, maybe not, that was horrible. Maybe not that bad.
Loved it.
But the trumpet finishes the story at the end. He didn't need to say it. He let the instrumentation do the work. And I mean, not even to mention his voice. I mean, he's just an absolute beautiful singer. But yeah, and lastly, the faith element in that song that I realized that when I was making this list, like a lot of the songs that I like are songs that they try to go face to face with the idea that there's some fairness or justice in the universe versus that there's not, and things are more random. And you know, his line is the glory that the Lord has made, but I get choked up even saying the line. But he took my shoulders and he shook my face, and he takes and he takes and he takes. You know, and that, like, the way to describe God as this all-powerful being, but that does factually, whether you believe, I'm not, it doesn't matter if you believe or not, this is the story he's telling, but that this all good being would, like, take so much
Right.
from us, that he would take a friend that's too young to die, you know. Anyways, I will spend my entire career trying to achieve the beauty that he did in that one song, and he has about 200 other ones that are also equally as beautiful. But I'm very, very glad that I live at a time when he's writing
That's
music.
cool.
I feel lucky.
Well, yeah, in life, like, this shit is hard, and these people keep dying, and yeah.
That's what happens. Things are taken away, right? The longer that we're here, the more we realize that. And that's, again, I'm kind of an existentialist on that. I'm like, oh, well, it's good to face that. It's good to talk about it. It's good to think about it in music and books and film and maybe come to peace with it at some point and not be scared of it.
And that we have zero control is something. Yeah. And that. Yeah. I mean,
that's okay.
Yeah. And just kind of, I think, your response to it, right? And
right.
I know I hate the saying everything happens for a reason, because I've had some shitty stuff, and I'm like, don't say that to me. Yeah.
I agree completely. Oh no, my friend and I, he used to be a pastor. He left the church a long time ago, and he has all this. When God, what is it? Closes the door, he opens a window. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think you should say that at a funeral.
No.
That seems like a bad look, guy. They come up with another line, dude.
So interesting. It's probably, was an expression to make you feel better, but you would say the opposite. Like, does it make you feel crappier?
I think it makes people feel worse.
Right.
I think what makes people feel better is when you sit there, just like I said, with a friend. Doesn't have to be a therapist, but when you have empathy for somebody.
Right.
And you sit there and you just look at them and you sit in their pain with them. That's the harder thing to do.
Absolutely.
The easier thing is, I mean, all the things we do, usually they're attempts at being loving. I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to say something to make somebody feel better, but it doesn't work,
It's just words. Yeah.
That's why, that's when I grab one of my records and I just slide it over and like, that's right.
Yeah.
This will help. And you can you can Venmo me later.
That's right.
Because these vinyls are very expensive.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
God bless.
If it's a CD, you have no place to play it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. If it's a CD, I'm giving them a case because I have
Like
too many of
coasters,
those.
anybody? I'm sorry, that's
Yeah.
awful to say to a musician. I've never used
No,
a CD as a
it's a
coaster. I
CD,
promise.
you
have no place to play it anyway.
Oh, I probably am like right now. I'm sure I have a cup of coffee on one of my CDs at some point. Yeah.
No.
We probably don't have time to get into a
well.
bunch more, but if you want to throw out some of the other titles on your favorites list.
Yeah, I love by Crash Test Dummies.
For reals?
Oh, it's one of my favorite songs.
Oh my gosh. How
it's
about the music video? How do you feel about the music video?
I think it made a lot of sense at the time.
Yes. Is it because the story he's telling is so sad?
No, it shares the same thing that the rest of these do, where he's wrestling with justice in the universe. He's wrestling with the idea. He doesn't say it, but he's wrestling with the idea that there's a benevolent creator, and yet there's pain. It's a problem of pain. C.S. Lewis called it that, right? And he's wrestling with that. There's three characters, right? There's the one that has birthmarks all over their body. There's the one, was it the car accident, or am I forgetting that one? And then there was the kid that's like, it lives in like a fundamentalist, like Pentecostal home where they're like shaking, and they do that kind of stuff. And he was the one that had it worse than both the other ones, in the song, as the song goes. But that song to me was always about like, life is not fair. Look at these three vignettes of like the way that the universe just passes out joy or pain.
And is think about it, because it was such a unique, it's a hum.
I think, I mean, I don't know, but I think he was leaving space. Yeah.
It's a pretty brave move. Like, who's like, this is the next radio single. We're going to have a humming chorus.
Right.
But like,
right.
Especially in the time of MTV when there was a story to watch as well. I felt like it was
right.
Interesting.
Right. That's a really good point. Yeah. But I don't think that song works if there's actual words in the chorus. It doesn't work as well. Right? Yeah, I think it's that thing, like I said, of the trumpet telling the story. It just leaves that space, circling back to what we were talking about.
Just because it's like, and knowing your background, do you find yourself religious still, or did you kind of leave your childhood?
I think I like I definitely left that. I left the idea of hating people because that was dumb, and I got really sick of it. And I mean, it was hardcore. I want to make that clear. I had a lot of like undoing, deconstructing is the word a lot of people use. I heard somebody say, I had a buddy of mine say, he was like, we're all actually agnostic, whether somebody wants to admit it or not, because we don't know. nobody actually knows. So nobody can say for sure. I kind of like
that's
that.
why it's called faith, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my mom would say I'm a heretic. I think just because there's certain things I don't think there was actually a literal big boat that had like 2 of every kind of animal.
Right.
That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I would say that I'm still a spiritual person. I believe there are many things that we don't understand. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really I don't know. I really don't know. But I, like I said, the hate element I walked away from years ago because it didn't work. It didn't work for me, and I started to have like a lot of friendships with a lot of different kind of people, and like people that my mom would say I shouldn't hang out with, And I was like, well, that's dumb. I don't want to do that anymore, Mom.
Yeah. I often say like religion's human interpretation, and like, yeah, I'm spiritual, but I don't know, just don't be a dick to people.
I mean, that's a good rule.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's a great
And
rule.
scene.
Yeah.
The moral of this episode is don't be a dick.
Try. And or try and then write songs.
Yeah. But I like wrestling with those things. And I like that, like, you have someone like Sufjan Stevens that he includes that stuff in a lot of his material. And he's wrestling. You can tell he's wrestling, but he's not shying away from it.
So what's another one? Because I'm like, I want to see. Is the
You're
list?
going to have to send the whole
Yeah,
list.
I know. We need to.
Yeah. But it's not, I mean, there's only two. There's only
Okay,
two. Against All Odds.
Oh, good one.
Phil Collins.
Yep.
I mean, again, musically, you don't even need the lyrics to that, but and that one is like I wish I had wrote that and put that on the Sparrow and the Crow record kind of song, where he knows it's over.
Yeah.
He totally, but there's this, and we all understand that, the truth, your head knows it, but your heart is like, but maybe there's still, that I hold out this little hope, you coming back to me is against the odds.
And like such a passionate song. I think I can't remember if they did it or not, but I definitely pitched that as an idea on the sing-off.
Passionate's the right word for that too. Yeah, it's just so honest. It's just so honest. And I have to feel like that one was very lived. Like when you listen to that song, you're like, he felt every single word that he said. I could be wrong. It might have been written by 8 people in Nashville, but
I know.
I doubt it. And the last one was I don't think so either.
But it was written for a movie.
It was?
Yes. By the same name, if I remember correctly, right? Or did I make that up?
I think it might. I think you might be right.
Yeah, I think it was a romance, and there was addiction, there was substance abuse.
I'm going to Google it. So the music was mostly written by the composer, it looks like, but Phil came in for the lyrics, and yes, a lot of it is based on his split with his first wife. And according to an episode of This American Life referenced on Wikipedia, in the interview he said that the divorce transformed him from being a musician into also being a lyricist. So,
oh wow,
speaking from truth.
Oh, that's interesting. So he hadn't been writing a lot before that, at least. That's fascinating.
Or maybe it was the one where he was like, oh, I got this, right?
Yeah, but my God, what we would have missed out on. That's crazy. Wow, I'm glad you looked that up.
Isn't, the internet is a wonderful place. But part of the reason we started this podcast is it doesn't always have the answers. So sometimes you got to go straight to the source. Yeah. So thanks for being with us today, William. This was so fun.
Oh my God, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah, I love talking about sadness.
I know. Thank you, William.
Absolutely my pleasure.
We've been a big fan we've been a fan of yours for a long time, so it's really nice to...
Thank you for helping to get my music out into the world. That means a lot to me. Thanks.
Oh. Thank you, William.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for joining us today on Sad Song Queens, 'cause you always need a good cry. We will link these songs in our show page and Spotify playlist and hope you will listen.
Huge thanks to William Fitzsimmons, Rashawn Blumberg, and Network Records.
Special production thanks to Keahu Kahuanui, Miles Bergsma, Wyatt Rouse, Jessica Griffin, and our researchers Emily Cartham and Sylvia Molthrop.
Theme song by Weezer, All My Favorite Songs, and outro music by Wyatt Rouse.